The National Desk, America's News, now.
Life-threatening temperatures, millions of Americans under heat warnings and watches. Which areas are expected to break records? It marked the beginning of the end, an invasion that changed the course of history. Leading up to the 80th anniversary of D-Day, hear from a veteran who was on the front lines. And then
they had perseverance, and that's what we do at NASA. We don't launch until it's right.
it's a space voyage years in the making. Inside the private trip to the International Space Station, and one comes next for the astronauts on board. This is the National Desk, America's News. Now, I'm Dee Dee Gatton. Thank you for joining us. The pre-summer heat wave continues over the Southwest with 35 million Americans under heat alerts today, according to heat.gov. Cities from California to Texas, they could reach or break heat records today, with multiple areas hitting triple digits. Tomorrow and Friday are forecasted to be hotter, approaching 110 in some areas, while also covering a larger area across the U.S. On Friday and over the weekend, Oregon, Idaho, and Colorado could see new record highs as well. This, as the world may have had its hottest continuous year on record. The European Union's climate monitoring service, Copernicus, offered data to the UN that says that every single month from June 2023 to May 2024 was the hottest respective month ever. The director of Copernicus blamed man-made global warming for the phenomena, while the UN Secretary General agreed with the conclusion.
In the case of climate, we are not the dinosaurs. We are the meteor. We are not only in danger, we are the danger. But we are also the solution.
As parts of his talks, Guterres has called for a windfall tax on fossil fuel companies, calling them godfathers of climate chaos. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg says former President Donald Trump's gag order should remain in place. While the trial ended last week, the gag order has not been removed because Trump has not been sentenced. The former president plans to appeal the decision. His lawyers say it is an undue burden on Trump's First Amendment rights. And an appeals court has halted Trump's Georgia election interference case as it considers a ruling allowing Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis to stay on the case. That makes it even less likely that this case will go to trial before the November election. Hunter Biden spent a third day in court today in his federal gun trial. Here's national correspondent Christine Frizzell with more.
It was another emotional day in a federal courthouse in Delaware. President Joe Biden's only surviving son forced to relive some painful parts of his past. Ex-wife Kathleen Buell testified that she found drugs and paraphernalia in Hunter Biden's car on multiple occasions, including in 2018, but never saw him use drugs. Though another witness, ex-girlfriend Zoe Keston, detailed the many times she saw him smoke crack that he would want to smoke as soon as he woke up. That Hunter Biden was addicted to drugs is not in dispute. Prosecutors Tuesday showed these photos that were allegedly exchanged between he and his dealers, also using Hunter's own words from the audio version of his book Beautiful Things to make that case.
Mainly, however, we just planted ourselves on the couch and smoked a ton of crack. For endless hours, day after day, it was the same numbing ritual, over and over and over.
But central to this case is the question of timing. When filling out this form to purchase a gun, if Hunter Biden knowingly lied about being a user of or addicted to drugs or controlled substances when he answered no.
They've got to show, maybe not the second that he filled out the form, but around the time that he was purchasing this revolver, he was using drugs.
Other expected witnesses include Hallie Biden, the widow of Beau Biden, who Hunter dated after his brother's death, who also is the one who threw the gun he owned for 11 days into a trash can, where it was later found and reported to authorities.
We are still waiting to hear who Hunter Biden's defense team may call as witnesses, but top names include his daughter Naomi and his uncle James Biden, who is close with Hunter and helped him navigate rehab as he worked to get sober. I'm Christine Frizzell for the National Desk.
As Hunter stands on trial, both he and his uncle, James Biden, have been referred for criminal prosecution. House Oversight, Judiciary, and Ways and Means Committee chairman sent a joint letter to the DOJ claiming both Hunter and James lied under oath in their closed-door depositions before Congress during the House impeachment inquiry. House Democrats have called the inquiry a political stunt. A gunman who opened fire outside the U.S. Embassy in Beirut this morning has been shot and captured by Lebanese soldiers. Military and embassy officials say the shootout injured a Lebanese security guard at the embassy. No U.S. personnel were harmed. The motive is unclear, but Lebanese media reports the gunman wore a black vest with the words Islamic State written in Arabic and the English initials I and S. The attack comes as tensions continue to rise between Hezbollah militants and Israeli troops. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited the northern Israeli town of Kiryat Shimona and issued a warning to Hezbollah about a possible escalation to the war in the Middle East.
Whoever thinks that they can hurt us and that we will sit idly by is making a big mistake. We are prepared for very intense action in the north. One way or another, we will restore security to the north.
In Gaza, Hamas has rejected the latest ceasefire offer pushed by President Joe Biden. Biden said the offer was Israeli-made, despite some pushback from the Israeli government as well. Hamas says they cannot agree to any deal that does not include Israel's immediate and permanent withdrawal from Gaza. CIA Director William Burns is expected to return to Doha to meet with Qatar's Prime Minister and White House coordinator for the Middle East. Brett McGurk is back in Cairo to continue to push for some kind of deal. The Food and Drug Administration now investigating if recalled cucumbers are the cause of a nationwide salmonella outbreak that has hospitalized more than 50 people. Monday, cucumbers by Florida-based Fresh Start Produce were recalled in 14 states, but the FDA says additional states could be impacted. The FDA and CDC are looking into a recent salmonella outbreak in 23 states with nearly 160 illnesses. No deaths have been reported. Certain veggie puff snacks made by Lesser Evil and Serenity Kids have concerning levels of lead and heavy metals. This according to a study released by the Consumer Reports. Lesser Evil's Little Puffs Intergalactic Voyager Veggie Blend tested at 112% of California's daily maximum allowable dose of lead. Their Sweet Potato Apple Asteroid hit 60%. While Serenity Kids grain-free puffs also tested high, there are no federal limits for lead. President Biden is in Europe to honor U.S. troops on the 80th anniversary of D-Day. Biden arrived in France today and will speak at a ceremony in Normandy tomorrow. That's where troops stormed the beaches en route to defeating the Nazis in 1944, in a step towards defeating Germany. Biden will also meet with France's president and discuss Ukraine, the Gaza war, and climate change. Experts estimate there are about 100,000 World War II veterans still alive today. Some of them are in Normandy to mark the occasion. The National Desk, Atra El-Nashar, spoke with a D-Day veteran who was on the front lines about what happened on that day that changed the course of history.
You are about to embark upon the great crusade toward which we have striven these many months. The eyes of the world are upon you.
80 years later, Marvin Gilmore, who turns 100 this year, still remembers.
I became a man and a soldier overnight.
Early morning, June 6, 1944, Gilmore and his fellow soldiers in an all-black anti-aircraft artillery battalion were part of an armada of more than 7,000 ships and boats on the English Channel, supported by about 12,000 Allied aircraft. Their orders, invade Nazi-occupied France. General Eisenhower warned it would not be easy.
Your enemy is well-trained, well-equipped and battle-hardened. He will fight savagely.
Being African-American, we were the first on the line.
The price of a liberated Europe was paid in lives. Gilmore saw it firsthand on Utah and Omaha beaches.
When we climbed that hill, all we were trained to kill or be killed. War is gruesome. And I think most soldiers came back, we don't talk about it. We really don't.
2,501 Americans were among the more than 4,400 Allied troops killed on D-Day. It changed the course of the war, igniting the Allies' defeat of the German Third Reich. An unconditional surrender came 11 months later.
What if the Allies had failed that day? What do we know about where we'd be or how the war could have unfolded?
You don't know, right? In Eisenhower, you read Eisenhower's message going out. Well, Eisenhower had in his pocket that message accepting responsibility if the mission had failed, if he had to withdraw, if it didn't work.
Memorials like this one in Normandy are a tribute to the bravery and sacrifice of veterans like Gilmore and those who never came home. They also serve as a reminder of what we owe them.
And I think showing that gratitude by living in the way that honors them.
There's a phrase that goes, the best way to honor our troops is to be an American worth fighting for.
Yeah, that's the key. That is the key.
Tim Holbert, who you just heard from there, he runs the American Veterans Center. He tells me he has never seen this much excitement surrounding a World War II commemorative event like he has for tomorrow's 80th anniversary. And he says that's likely because with just about 100,000 estimated World War II vets still with us, there likely won't be many around the next time there's another big anniversary of D-Day. In Washington, I'm Atra El-Nashar for the National Desk, America's News Now.
A moving piece. Atra, thank you. New details now. Water main repairs complete in Atlanta following several leaks that began Friday. Water was cut off for thousands of residents and many were under boil water advisories. The mayor says his office will be working with the Army Corps of Engineers to find permanent solutions for aging infrastructure. The city will also use AI to help detect future leaks. Caught on camera, a Wisconsin man is facing a disorderly conduct charge for an attack at his daughter's high school graduation. The man, wearing a white shirt, pushed the superintendent away from his daughter right before she was going to shake his hand. A voice was heard saying, "I don't want her touching him." Police then arrested the man. His motive is unclear, but some on social media are accusing him of racism. It comes as some residents have been complaining about the superintendent and other officials. Amanda Knox has been reconvicted of slander in Italy. A court said today that she should not have accused a bar owner of murdering her British roommate in 2007. Knox won't serve any more jail time. She already served 4 years after being wrongfully convicted of the murder. That conviction was overturned in 2011. But she owes legal fees and damages to the bar owner. Knox's lawyers plan to appeal the ruling. Coming up, the vast majority of Americans are concerned about not being able to pay their bills. We'll share expert advice for financial success. Then a $21 billion class action lawsuit against the NFL has begun. What fans claim happened and how the league is defending itself. Millions of kids in the U.S. are facing hunger, and that gets worse in the summer. The new initiative to combat this problem when we come back. Right now, much of the eastern U.S. is at risk for severe thunderstorms, leaving millions of people under flood alerts. Hail is possible in several states, and tornadoes are possible in Virginia and Maryland. The storm threat will remain on the East Coast tomorrow. Oklahoma has seen 100 confirmed tornadoes this year, double the average at this time of year, according to the National Weather Service. In the 74 years since modern record keeping began in 1950, only 9 times has the Sooner State surpassed 100 for the entire year. This is only the 3rd time that number was hit by the end of May. The job market appears to be slowing down. That's based on a new ADP report showing private sector employers added around 152,000 jobs last month, which was well below economists' expectations. It's also much lower than the 188,000 jobs added in April. We'll get a more complete picture on Friday when the monthly jobs report comes out. Meantime, nearly 9 out of 10 Americans have concerns their expenses outweigh their means. The National Desk's Christina Flores has much more about what you can do to achieve financial success.
In a recent survey by Bankrate, 89% of people say they don't feel financially successful, and 27% say they don't think they ever will be.
I think that's what's the most worrisome about all of this data.
Sarah Foster, an analyst with Bankrate, says the high price of basic necessities is making many Americans feel they will never achieve financial success, which to most people means paying for the basics and saving some money for the future. While most Americans think that getting paid more would help their financial success, it's not always the case.
We at Bankrate have seen Americans who make, well into 6-figure salaries feel less financially secure than someone who might have a more modest income just because they're spending well above their means.
So Foster says it's important to remember that no matter what you make, financial success requires budgeting, and it takes time.
Even if it feels a little bit hard to afford those everyday essentials, if you're putting aside $10, $15 a week, maybe even $50 a month, all of that adds up, especially because of the value of compound interest. I like to think about compound interest as something that matters more for your finances than the individual amount that you're saving, just because of how much time you give yourself for your wealth to accumulate.
Lawmakers are now thinking about how to fund the federal government for fiscal year 2025, which starts October 1st. Today, House Republicans passed their first funding bill, which includes billions of dollars for veterans and the military. But many Democrats say the bill would restrict veterans' abortion access and stop DEI initiatives at the VA. The bill is unlikely to go anywhere. A $21 billion class action lawsuit against the NFL has begun with jury selection in a Los Angeles courtroom. It centers around the NFL's Sunday Ticket televised game package. Subscribers claim the NFL violated antitrust law by keeping sole power over game distribution and allowed DirecTV to charge artificially higher prices for out-of-market games. The league argues Sunday Ticket expands rather than restricts access to games. Potential witnesses include NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell and Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones. Sunday Ticket is now distributed through Google's YouTube TV, which is not a defendant. Similar claims against DirecTV are on hold pending arbitration. This trial is expected to last several weeks. McDonald's has lost a trademark battle with Irish rival Supermax. Supermax had applied to register its name in the EU, but McDonald's said it sounded similar to its trademarked Big Mac. Supermax asked the EU to revoke McDonald's Big Mac trademark. Today, an EU court sided with Supermax, saying McDonald's couldn't prove it used the name Big Mac outside of a certain type of hamburger. A Mega Millions player out of Illinois hit the big jackpot of $560 million in a first-of-its-kind winning ticket. While this payout is just the 9th largest jackpot ever, it was the first time a Mega Millions jackpot ticket was sold online. This could open the door for new players and maybe larger jackpots in the future. But for now, the payout returns to its starting value of $20 million for its next drawing on Friday night. Still not bad. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering issues that matter to you. We're taking the pulse of America.
The damage is visible above a window panel where a sign on display reads, "Seattle stands with Israel." The Jewish man who lives here, who worries for the safety of his wife and 2 young kids. says he takes this scene personally.
Very reminiscent of what happened in Nazi Germany. If you remember Kristallnacht, a night in Germany where all the Jewish businesses' windows were smashed, and here is my house having its windows smashed.
Seattle police confirmed they responded to the reported hate crime in May and found broken glass and a rock in the home. The victim tells us his wife took this photo of the damage. They estimate the rock was the size of a couple softballs.
We're horrified by it.
American Jewish Committee Regional Director Regina Sastoon-Friedland noted concern over threats and acts of violence in Seattle amid tensions from the Israel-Hamas conflict.
40-year-old Joseph Leedy is behind bars tonight after the Martin County Sheriff's Office says he crashed his car into the jail Monday night.
He must have had to come through here. Nuts.
According to the Sheriff's Office, Leedy drove the car from the parking lot up the walkway and into the lobby.
I would never in a million years think somebody tried to break into jail. Break out? Yeah. But break in? It's crazy.
In the surveillance video, Leedy can be seen plowing his car into the lobby, smashing the door, and leaving tire marks along the sidewalk. Deputies say when Leedy got out of the car, he was half naked. The incident raising a red flag when it comes to security at the jail. Budenseek says they will now look at beefing up protection around the sheriff's office and the front of the jail.
Monday afternoon, Eric Barrera says his brother was taking a shower when he smelled smoke.
He came out, walked out the front door, and he sees like the whole front yard as well, just covered in smoke.
You can see in the surveillance video, it only took 1 minute for the flames to move onto Barrera's front yard and make their way along the property line. He says his brother called 911 right away and grabbed a water hose to wet the perimeter of the house, but it was a little too late.
You're just standing there watching it all happen, you can't really do nothing at that point.
Barrera says he called Fresno City Code Enforcement 4 days earlier to complain about the fire hazard with the tall weeds and issues resulting from homeless encampments nearby.
I think just removing them from a high-risk area, like these areas right here with the high weeds and everything.
Coming up, how can you help kids facing hunger this summer in the absence of school meals? We're back in 90 seconds with more. Schools are closing for the summer, and the students who rely on the meals provided during the school year may need your help. Our parent company, Sinclair, is teaming up with Feeding America for our new initiative, Sinclair Cares Summer Hunger Relief. The National Desk, Angela Brown, explains.
The numbers are huge. 22 million children in the U.S. rely on schools for their meals that could go away this summer. Sinclair Cares Summer Hunger Relief Campaign is teaming up with Feeding America to feed children this summer. Working mom Jenny Murphy stretching every dollar to feed her kids.
Sometimes we would have to buy the cheaper, less healthier food items from the store and having like 1 or 2 meals compared to 3 per day.
In tough times, relying on community support to get by.
I've had to use the food pantries, like blessing boxes.
Feeding America says 13 million children in the U.S. face hunger.
Food insecurity becomes even more dire in the summer months because school is out of session, and so those school lunches and breakfasts just aren't available.
Feeding America is teaming up with Sinclair Care's Summer Hunger Relief Campaign. The goal? Ambitious. Providing 1 million meals to children and families this summer.
Donations from viewers will be directed right back to food banks and local communities to help support children and families facing hunger.
The cost of a cup of coffee could pay for several meals.
$1 can help provide at least 10 meals through the Feeding America network.
Donations that will help organizations like the Maryland Food Bank that provided roughly 41 million meals last year.
A lot of strain on families over the course of the summer. And again, this is more exacerbated this year in particular because of the fact that the effect of inflation, food costs have just been so high.
In 2022, our Sinclair Care's partnership with Feeding America resulted in nearly 2 million meals for children in our local markets. I'm Angela Brown in Washington, D.C.
Coming up, 2 astronauts are blasting into space on a Boeing spacecraft for the first time ever. When they'll reach the International Space Station, we'll be right back after this. And that is the sound of Boeing Starliner capsule blasting off into space with NASA astronauts on board for the first time. The astronauts Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams are currently in Earth's orbit. They are set to dock with the International Space Station tomorrow. After a week, they'll return to the Starliner to head back home. The crewed maiden voyage comes after years of delays and setbacks for Boeing Starliner, which is trying to compete with SpaceX's Crew Dragon spacecraft. And that is going to do it for us for this edition of the National Desk. We invite you to join us again this evening for more coverage on America's top stories. I'm Didi Gatton. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.